week I challenged myself to spend a lot less than normal on groceries and instead use up some of the things that we had in the freezer and in the pantry and in the fridge. So normally my grocery budget for my family of 7 is $175 a week. And that's the top amount that I like to spend. I try to keep it at $150. As you guys know, I raised it to $175 earlier this spring because I just kept not hitting that $150. But lately I do feel like my average is probably more like $150. $175 being kind of the top amount that I want to spend. And that includes things like diapers and toilet paper and stuff like that too, just for context. So this week I wanted to see if I could spend about half of that and spend just about $80 or so. I wanted to do this tighter budget because we're spending a lot this time of year as I start planning for Christmas and things like that. And while we plan for that ahead of time and we budget for that, I still thought it would be a good time of year to try to cut back in other ways where I can so that we're not just like spending all of this money. And also I just feel like it's always good every so often to give yourself a challenge like this and be like, okay, what do I need to use up in the fridge or the pantry or the freezer? What easy meals can I make with some of these things so that you're not just always buying new things and not using up some of the stuff that you already have. So before I made my meal plan, I went ahead and I looked in the freezer and in the fridge and in the pantry. In the freezer, I had some cooked meats, like I had some ground beef and I had some chicken. So I knew I wanted to use those up. And I knew those would make for easy meals because they're already cooked. And so I can just easily use them in recipes. So that was something in the freezer I knew I'd want to use. In the fridge, I saw that I have some leftovers, like some leftover beans. I have some leftover soup that I made last week. I also have some breakfast meat. So I was thinking I can do a breakfast for dinner this week. And I've been wanting to do an egg and sausage casserole that could be for breakfast for dinner, or I've been wanting to have just like extra for breakfast. So I don't have to make breakfast every morning. I can just cut a piece off of my egg casserole. So I might be doing that. And then in the pantry, I found some cream of mushroom soup, which is something I don't use that often. So I kind of wanted to find a recipe to use that up. So after looking at everything that I already had on hand, then I was able to put together a meal plan and then make my grocery list for everything else I needed. So the meal plan that I settled with for this week is chicken spaghetti. The thing I love about chicken spaghetti is it only calls for 2 cups of chicken, which really stretches the meat. And I know I have pre-portioned 2 cups of cooked chicken in the freezer, so that'll be convenient for that. And that recipe will use up the cream of mushroom soup. So we're gonna have chicken spaghetti. We're also gonna have breakfast for dinner, so that's 2. I'm also gonna make just a simple chicken soup with some more of the chicken that I have in the freezer. I also have chicken broth that I've made and frozen, so that is ready for that chicken soup. I just need to buy celery for it, I think is the only thing I need for that. And I'm gonna do some homemade bread with that. Then I also chose baked drumsticks, which actually I made those yesterday, but I had them on my meal plan for last week and never got around to making them, so they were right there defrosted in the fridge, so that made for an easy meal yesterday. And then the 5th meal on my meal plan is taco stack up because I have those leftover beans in the fridge. I also have leftover rice in the fridge. I have ground beef that's already cooked in the freezer, so all I need to do is mix in taco seasoning with that. So I'm just gonna need to buy some tomatoes or lettuce and like things like that to go on the taco stack up, but don't really need to buy much else. So those are the 5 meals on my meal plan. I usually mainly plan for 5 meals because a lot of times we have a leftover night, or I'll do frozen pizza from the freezer on a Friday night when we watch a movie as a family or things like that. It just usually works well to plan 5, sometimes 6 meals, but just planned out 5 for this week. So once I had my simple meal plan here all planned out, then I could quickly finish making my grocery list. There were just really a few items that I needed from here. And then the basics that I buy every week, like milk and bread and apples. We eat a lot of apples and things like that. So we did end up spending right around $80 this week at Walmart. So I will show you that grocery haul now. Here's everything that I got at Walmart this week, including some toilet paper down here. So all of this was about $72, and then Pablo spent just about $10 the other day. So it was just over $80 for the week. So I'm happy with that. That's, I would say, about half of what we normally spend. My budget is technically $175, but I usually try to spend about $150 a week. So it felt good to spend less this week. Let me show you what I did get. String cheese for the kids for snacks. I didn't want to get too much snacky stuff because that adds up, but string cheese is nice to have, and we hadn't had that for a few weeks. Some tomatoes, some oranges, and apples. Apples are like our go-to snack. That kids have apples usually either in the morning or the afternoon, pretty much every day whenever Caleb has soccer games. I cut up a bunch of apples, so we definitely go through those a lot. So those are kind of a must for us. Some spaghetti for this week. Saltines, we were all out of crackers, so saltines are the cheapest option and the kids like them. Coconut flakes, which seems kind of like an extra thing for a basic haul, but I want to do some homemade snacks this week, and one of the ones I want to do is little energy balls that have oats and coconut and peanut butter, chocolate chips and honey. So that's what those are for. Just a little more basic, great value Cheerios. Also, Caleb asked if I could make rice pudding. I don't know if any of you guys had rice pudding growing up. I feel like it feels like a little more of an old-fashioned recipe, but mine calls for evaporated milk, and I already have extra rice in the fridge that I cooked last week. So I thought, well, I might as well make that for him since he requested it. And it is really yummy, I like it. Some more peas. Some of this salad kit, because I have extra kale in the fridge from a soup I made last week. And so I thought I would chop it up and add it to this, because this always comes with plenty of dressing. So I thought that would be a good way, a yummy way for me to use up some of the extra kale. And celery for chicken soup, a couple loaves of bread, 3 gallons of milk. I think we've gotten to the point where we need 4 a week. So Pablo picked one up earlier before I did this order. That was part of his like $10 purchase that he made. He also picked up a dozen eggs, a box of cereal, and some bananas when he went to the store that day. So that is everything for the week, and I think it should be fine. I think we have enough in our freezer and our pantry and everything to get us through the week with a little bit less. So let me know, do you ever try to do low spend weeks like this, or even no spend weeks? Let me know what you do in the comments. I know in the past we have tried to do like a no spend week. I feel like that was easier when it was just Pablo and I, but now with 5 kids and them wanting snacks and different things, maybe I'm just not organized enough, or I don't prepare ahead enough, but it would be hard for me not to get any groceries for the week. I think that would be difficult. Probably be a good challenge. But let me know what you guys do. As always, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for liking this video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you again soon in my next video.